Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. How's everybody doing? I hope this finds you in good health and secure. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I don't know, there's a short description for today, but who knows? That doesn't mean I'll be short with it. Oh my. Apologies. I just had a bit of a thunderstorm go through here, and I guess it made me tired. Odd thing. All right. Today's term is habit energy. Habit energy. That comes from pretty early in Shakyamuni's teaching life. For our purposes, which is why I've written and I'm still writing this book. Probably will be for some time to come, but at any rate, the electronic version is available on threefoldlotus.com. And the print version, well, I'm waiting. It'll be a couple of weeks before I get a proof copy, and then I'll go through it again. So far, I haven't heard from you guys on any additional content. Of course, it's hard to come up with additional content when you haven't seen the entire content yet, yeah? Maybe I should publish a table of contents. That might be helpful, Sylvain. I've done that previously, but I haven't done it in a while. So, under the associations for habit energy, the first one is C, attachment. Attachment, not really an adequate English word for this concept. Clinging might be more evocative of what Shakyamuni means by habit energy. But it's interesting to call it habit energy because, as you know by now, if you've watched any of these, and by the way, if you're new here, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your support, everyone. As I always say, you're liking these videos, subscribing, far from being about pleasing me in any way or thanking me, is a bodhisattva act, because truly, though it says like and subscribe, what you're really doing is speaking to the YouTube algorithm and saying to other people, hey, if you're looking for information like this to help your practice, to encourage your practice, take a look over here. So that's a bodhisattva act, yeah? Anyway, more on that later. So attachment, clinging. Where does attachment come from? Where does clinging come from? Easier to get with that word, I think, because it's an energy of our minds. Buddhism is about our mind, our attitude, and our intent. And what does the attaching? See, attachment has that adhesive kind of connotation to it, doesn't it? Clinging has more of a conscious will attached to it. And I think that's a better word, actually, for what Shakyamuni was describing as habit energy, because glue doesn't form a habit. We do. Our sentient mind does. So clinging, although you'll find it under defined in this book under attachment. My goodness. Breathe, Sylvain. Okay. Number 2, moment-to-moment repetition without influence for change, or perhaps more accurately, the continued influence for stasis and resisting change. Now that's interesting in words trying to define. We think of motion, right, like in science, as either kinetic or momentum or potential energy, kinetic energy, momentum of energy, right? And I talk like this all the time about karma, about our lives, moment to moment, momentum, right? Kinetic energy. The formations create kinetic energy. That, in fact, that equation is karma. It's the engine of life. It's how we exist from moment to moment to moment. We have momentum because there's kinetic energy moving us from moment to moment, yeah? But habit energy is kind of a subtlety of that kinetics. So let's put it this way. I've used this analogy before, so let's use it again in a different way. A ball is rolling down a paved road on a hill. It's not hard to understand that the ball is moving, so it has momentum. That momentum is a combination of the kinetic energy of the ball. Somewhere it started rolling, and that kinetic energy is being fed. It's being fed by, well, the slope of the hill, the weight of the ball, gravity, all these different aspects of it. But understanding that the ball, once it starts rolling, needs work or energies taken away from it somehow in order to slow it down or stop it, right? Object in motion tend to stay in motion. Object at rest tends to stay at rest. Anything that changes the state from rest to motion, from motion to rest, requires an opposing force, right? As an analogy for karma in our Buddhist practice, we, with our thoughts, actions, words, deeds, any work, any action we take is an application of energy. So we influence that karmic freight train, that ball rolling down the hill. In the case of the ball rolling down the hill, there's friction. There's the material of the asphalt, or maybe it's a gravel road or concrete, whatever. But there's friction. There's air resistance. There's forces working to impede the kinetic energy of this ball. Are they enough to overcome the kinetic energy and slow the ball all the way down to rest or not? Maybe the road levels out, so on and so forth, yes? But all of those opposing forces or helpful forces, winds coming from behind the ball, an increase in the slope in the hill, make the ball roll faster. Everything is an influence on the state of the ball. But here's what's easy to forget. When you're talking about the state of the ball, you must remember it's moving. The state of the ball, although that sounds like an empirical static statement, describes a ball in motion. Same is true of karma. We think of it as a thing, a static thing, but it's not. Karma is tendencies and conditions constantly evolving, changing, influencing, and being influenced. So habit energy is just that raw component of momentum without considering influences. Anytime there's an influence, that habit energy either works with it or against it. It's either influenced to manifest more or influenced to be reduced. But habit energy, in and of itself, doesn't want to do any of those. It just wants to keep going. Does that make sense? The third, malleable only with conscious effort. Depending on the depth and complexity of the constructs of the habit energy, change may vary in the effort required to alter its momentum. It may take a lot of work and effort to stop an addictive behavior. It may take very little effort to stop burning oneself at the oven. Stop doing that. Oop. Okay? So, here's my description. This term, found in early Buddhist text translations, refers to the momentum of karma from one moment and its attendant influences, cause, effect, relations, and into the next moment, accumulating through time-space. See also engine of life. We've already talked about all this, right? Habit energy is, at one end, the very fundamental driving force of the nidana, as amalgams of various tendencies and conditions craving to be, quote unquote, of energy bind together or fall away. And at the other end, fully manifested into our experience of samsara. See samsara. So, sounds like a simple term, but it is, you could say, kind of a sub-definition of these larger concepts, right? Habit energy is identifying an aspect of our samsaric life that's simply expressing our karma. But we never truly simply express our karma because we're in momentum, we're moving through a medium called life, and everything in our environment is influencing us to either keep going, perceive ourselves as static, which we're not. Unchanging might be a closer word to the illusion of nonsense. It's like the world of Nin, or sometimes called humanity. I don't know why they call it humanity. Nin is more accurate, or tranquility, we used to call it. Much more accurate. Tranquility, because you hear a lot of it in our contemporary world, right? As tranquility is like a goal. And it's misinterpreted as calm. Or it can be interpreted as calm. But understand, tranquility as a word in our Western minds and in some schools appears to us visually in our mind as stasis, as quietude, as rest, non-change, right? Unchanging, tranquility, everything status quo, all these synonyms and ideas. But in true Buddhism, if you understand life is momentum, there is no life without momentum. That's quiescence, that's energy unformed, no formations, no sentience. So tranquility actually is a form of death. The world of tranquility isn't the lowest world, right? It's, what is it, sixth? But it's one of the lower 6 worlds because the perception of tranquility is in fact regression. Let me explain. Say you're in the back seat of a car, and the car is heading down the highway at 70 miles an hour. Don't worry, the speed limit's 75. You're fine. And although you're sitting still in the back seat, you must understand that you are moving at 70 miles an hour. Forget the addition of the spin of the Earth and the Earth through the solar system and the solar system through the galaxy and the galaxy throughout the universe. Yes, it's a phenomenal speed we're all moving at. But just for the sake of this example, you're sitting in the backseat of a car moves at 70 miles an hour. You are moving 70 miles an hour. You don't perceive it seated in the back of the car. But if you truly achieve stillness, tranquility, you will rip through the back seat, back through the rear end of the car, and you'll remain and drop seated on the highway as the car speeds away from you at 70 miles an hour. Where's the tranquility in that? I'm pointing out the illusion. There is no such thing as tranquility. There simply isn't. Nothing in the universe sits still. That's a delusion. It's not just an illusion, it's a delusion because we convince ourselves of it. That's why it's a lower world. You're not experiencing your full life. You're in denial of it. So remember that in the 10 realms, right? World of tranquility, Nin, humanity. I think that's kind of a slap in the face of humanity, if you want my opinion. Shouldn't be what it's called. Anyway, interesting to think of that in the idea of habit energy. Life itself is habit energy. The question is, are you enjoying the habit? Are you moving with the habit? Are you influencing the habit, or is it influencing you? Who's driving? Right? Okay. Habit energy is at one end the very fundamental driving force of the nidana, as amalgams of various tendencies and conditions, craving to be, of energy bind together or fall away, depending on which way it goes. And at the other end, it's a fully manifested in our experience of samsara. So there it is. Habit energy. Interesting conceptually, yeah? But please look up the other four terms here: attachment, momentum of karma, energy of life, samsara. They'll all round out this idea of habit energy. What's going on with that energy? What is the habit? Moment to moment to moment. Re-instantiation. Birth. See, it's very circular, isn't it? The next term? Oh, man, I have issues with this term. But we'll talk about it, because it's used a lot in translations, unfortunately. Heaven. 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 Oh, okay. Yeah, we see it in a lot of translations. How can we use that term constructively? How can we understand that it's not the cliche, the vernacular of heaven? Probably shouldn't even be used in terms of Buddhism, but it's everywhere, so let's talk about it. That'll be next up in the next video. In the meantime, please take care of your health. Keep your practice strong. That's number one. Everything else works out from there, yeah? And as I always say, be kind to yourself, because if you're not kind to yourself, you can't truly be kind to everyone else. Okay? And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.